Megilat.
Okay, so yeah, let's go to the back of the book. So okay, so on in the Stancino, it's page 1252. And we're gonna start at the in the first chapter. And okay. Yeah, second. Okay. Okay. We're gonna start at the story of Vashti. So it's in the 9th verse, Pasuk 9, Pasuk Tet, in Perek Aleph. So let's just go back a minute, right? So we said that the Megilat is what? How would we paraphrase the Megilat? We talked about framing it a little differently, right? We said that it's not a history book of what happened about 1,000 years after the destruction of the temple. It's not only that. It's that with a massive overlay of what our world is going to look like forever and ever, right? So it's the story of how Hakadosh Baruch Hu will deal with us in this world, how we'll be challenged, and what the results will be, what the process will be, and what the results will be. Okay, so it has to be looked at as a big blown up story, and therefore we take a lot of liberty in evaluating this, right? So if we were reading it black and white, the story there was an Ahashverosh and Haman and a Vashti and a Mordechai and a Esther and this, that. Great. That's certainly one way to approach it. We're doing it based more on the Midrashic, Kabbalistic side, which enables us to go much wider and higher and look at it as this perpetual document. Good? Okay. So that's where we started with it. Okay. Let's dig in a little bit. Hi, how are you? She's still hopping around. Ouch. How do you feel? Yeah. How are you?
Oh, she's holding the
Oh,
door.
she's still holding the door.
You're told to come down. Oh.
Thank you. Okay, go to Pasuk 9. Who wants to read? Hebrew or English? Either way is fine. Pam, you want to read in the English? Come on. Okay, good. Hebrew.
גם ושתי המלכה עשתה משתה נשיא ומלכי אשר למלך אחשוורוש.
Okay, so Gam Vashti Amalka. So what did we say last week? We talked about the fact that Achashverosh makes a party, so to speak, right? What we said was that it wasn't this limited event. What we said was that Ahashverosh was implementing a plan, right? The plan was to create an altogether different value system with all of his people and us primarily. Oh, you're sorry. Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
I did. Book's right over there. So, no, is there a code? Last 4 digits of whose phone number? Mine? Oh, okay. Code is 6007. That's very good. Oh, he makes a select code for each thing, I guess. That's great. Okay, 6007. 6007. Okay. Now she is. She just came on. Thank you.
Very proud of her. She
She did it.
All right, Lynn. Nice to see you, Linda. Fantastic.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are going way up on this, way up. Yeah, we're going way up. And we're going to evaluate the story of Esther as we started. We're basing it overwhelmingly on the approach of the Gaon Vilna, who is a relatively recent giant, remarkable giant of Torah, wrote on just about everything. And he writes two explanations on this. One he writes is the Pshat, the straight up, and one he writes is the Remez, which is somewhat out there. We're going out there plus, we're going to Remez, and then we're going to Megilat Mistarim, and then we're going to the Al-Sheikh HaKadosh, and we're doing this because we want to appreciate the Megillah, the way it's framed, which is one of those few remaining books after Mashiach comes, one of the few books that will remain relevant. So we're going to go up there. It's going to be a little bit hard from time to time, and it doesn't button down exactly right. We need to know that as well. Okay, good. So what do we have so far? We have Achashverosh implements a system. He's got a brilliant system. We said he's Achiv Shel Rosh, right? We said he is the brother of the Nachash. He's the younger brother, as we said. We know the younger brother is the pri, the fruit. The older brother is the kilipa, the husk or the shell. And therefore, the younger brother is more powerful, more potent, can impact both worlds more than the older brother. We have a case in point, Esav and Yaakov, where Esav is powerful, but Yaakov ultimately is much more powerful, particularly in impacting both worlds. So we say Achashverosh is on a mission. And what is his mission? His mission is to do as follows. And extremely important. Now we're going to get introduced to Vashti, and we're going to get introduced to Haman. Okay? Achashverosh's mission is as follows. Are you with me? Okay. Achashverosh's mission is as follows. She's download quick. He says as follows, that Kadosh Baruch Hu builds the world with an absolute mandate for people to enjoy 50% of things. 50 is not a hard number, 50, but it means as follows. It means when HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts us on the planet, he tells us, build beautiful buildings for Torah, build beautiful buildings to live in. He says, set a beautiful table on Shabbat, beautiful table. Put beautiful kelim, beautiful utensils on the table. Make a wedding that's beautiful to celebrate the Chatan and Kala, and so on. So Achashverosh reasons as follows. God gave everybody a 50% mandate, right? And we base it on the Ma'amar Hazal that a person doesn't die with 50% of his pleasures in hand, which is often interpreted to say that a person goes to the grave after 120 years still wanting 100% of what the world could offer. But that's not the way the Kabbalists are approaching it. They're saying that the person who enjoys the world's 50%, i.e., 50% for him, 50% for God, doesn't die. When you say that a person doesn't die with 50% of his ta'avot, of his desires in his hand, it's because that person doesn't die. That person pulled it off. That person worked hard to engage the world with all its beauty and be connected and immersed spiritually. That's your Grand Slam person, right? Beauty is something of value in Judaism. It is. We say berachot when we see beautiful things. We go out of our way to build beautiful tables, right? Good. Excellent. Good. Excellent. Good. So now what is the Hashverosh reason? He says, if I can just move the needle just a little bit, I got him. In other words, he says, if we go crazy and we create a society that these spiritually bound people will reject, we're done. We're going to win. He said, but if we can move the dial just a little, and then just a little bit more, and then just a little bit more, I have them. And then he puts together a plan to approach from Hodu va'ad kush, right? From the period of Hod, i.e. when a child is born, to kush, to the later stage, to the dark stage, when a person is leaving this world, Shiva Esrim Ume'ah, from the 77-year-old who has no culpability for his actions, to the 20-year-old who does somewhat, to the fully grown person is fully responsible. He puts together a multi-tiered plan to go inside, penetrate, and to control and to corrupt. Not this dumb guy who's taken advantage of by this and that. He's brilliant. He spends years developing his plan. It takes him 3 years of very dedicated work to be positioned and to be put into the Malchut, as we said, after 3 years passed. He sits in the Kisei Malchut, as we talked about, meaning that he was absolutely in power. Okay. That's his plan. And his plan seems to be working beautifully. At the beginning of the Megilah, it seems to be working beautifully. Religious Jews, right? All of us, right? All of us were buying into this thing because it wasn't bad. There was nothing overtly destructive about it. Really, in fact, it's America. It really is America, the greatest country in the world. And it is the greatest country in the world. And we've had remarkable, remarkable blessing here as a Jewish people. But it's that the openness is the downfall. Good? So, Achashverosh sets his plan in motion. He's doing great. We talked last time about his party, so to speak, whether it was a party or wasn't a party and so on. We talked about the fact that he lined the walls with beautiful fabrics to reflect the luxury and to reflect the immodesty of his setting. So it's a reflection. It's not a direct confrontation. So if I reflect immodesty, I didn't come right at the person. I sort of went this way, right? Brilliant. He makes the pillows, so to speak. He makes the pillows, so to speak, with shatnez, right? Mixing linen and wool. So when you sat at the pillow and you looked at the pillow, there was nothing wrong with it. It was beautiful to sit on. It didn't hurt anybody, but it had the metaphysical damaging forces of mixing linen and wool that we know is damaging to us. And no, you can't sit on shatnez either. And then he puts brilliant stones in the columns and marble columns and alabaster columns, and he puts the stones in the floor as well to deprecate the value of things of value. And then kelim mikelim shonim, right? He has everybody drinking, but nobody drank from the same cup twice. What does that tell you? That nothing had value. So from drinking from a cup of silver and then discarding it, so to speak, and then I have one of nicer silver or another precious metal, it devalues things. And now when we use the term madai to a point to where endai, nothing is satisfying, nothing makes me happy, there's no end, it's brilliant. And you know what? It's 1,000,000% us today. 1,000,000%. And we love God and we're committed to God and all that thing, 1,000,000%. But how many of us reach a point in time when we say, you know what? I don't need any more. I don't want any more. I have enough money. I have enough this. I have enough. How many? And we're the best people. By the way, we're the best people, as they were. They were the best people. So he was brilliant in his move. Okay, so far?
Would you say that it's coming to a point of ennui?
A point-
Ennui in the ENNUI in like the English term, where everything seems to be. Hello?
Everything what? I'm sorry. Sorry, Amy.
It's okay. There's a truck near me. ENNUI, the idea that that this generation kind of suffers from Inouye, where like nothing kind of matters and everything is boring, nothing kind of captures the attention of people.
Yeah. Somebody told me that Apple, it was named Apple for this purpose. That the meta approach was to keep bringing out more, to keep tempting people with more, to keep advocating another phone. By the way, you ever need another phone? Right? But are you always buying another dumb phone? Of course we are. What were you gonna say, Viv?
I was gonna say, the Ein Sof is so telling, because Kabbalah, Hashem is the known as Ein Sof, and now they're trying to corrupt the concept of Ein Sof
Yes.
and get us to feel that Ein Sof means it's never enough. There's
It's
never enough.
exactly.
In a way that keeps us wanting the physical, but the Ein Sof is really gone.
And the Ein Sof is still in my life. That's
I
where he
put
was
the Ein
brilliant.
Sof in my life in a corrupt way.
That's right. But we never turned our backs on Shabbat. We never turned our backs on Kashrut. We never did. By the way, people who interpret the Megilat and say that the reason that the Jewish people were brought about by this decree of death by Haman is because they ate and drank at the Mishteh. What are you talking about? The punishment has to fit the crime, right? We don't execute people for eating unkosher or even for drinking unkosher wine. The punishment has to fit the crime. So when we look at these so-called events, we have to jump off the page. Okay, we have to jump off the page. We have no choice. Good. Now, Gam Vashti Malka. When we have the word Gam, Leslie, what do you want to do with that? Come on, Mary, Gam. Every word is measured, right? So if I have the word Gam, what do you want to do with that, Jane? Come on. So tell me, if she was in line with him, do I need the word Gam? What is Gam? I have a little
Maybe
tip off
she's
with it.
better than that.
Huh?
Maybe she's better than.
But Gam, what does it mean? What does Gam mean? And so our rabbis interpret Gam to say, and this was ancillary, it was tangential. There was no reason for her to make a party. This is a Gam. By the way, I could have started the sentence, Vashti made her own party, right? But we have a Gam here, which ends also, the rabbis interpret to say that this was a sideshow, and it's further pronounced by the fact of Vashti Amalka Asta Mishten Nashim Bet HaMalchut Asher LeMelech Achashverosh. Where did she make the party? In his palace, in the Bet HaMalchut, in the place of his monarchy, in his palace, i.e., it was absolutely a sideshow. Now,
Wait, does that mean that she was in on it? Like, was she also seducing the women population, or is it just that?
Beautiful. I mean, we'll talk about that. So what do we say about Vashti? Now, again, was Vashti a real person at the time? Probably. But Vashti we don't care a lot about what Vashti did then. You know, there are so many instances, unfortunately, in Judaism about a point where we were brought to an absolute crisis, right? There are so many, unfortunately, and where we were saved. But this is the one that goes down in history. This is the one where we mandate several mitzvot. How dare you mandate new commandments where we use God's name and we say things that, what are you talking about? Why is this one better than any other one, right? Why? Because we're talking about much bigger things. So we say Vashti is as follows. Well, tell me how you feel about this one. Said Achashverosh was Achiv Shorosh, right? The brother of the Nachash, the real no-goodnik, the evil inclination. Vashti, we say, is the force in a human being that refuses to acknowledge responsibility, even at the very, very end. Let's see where the Gra and others go. They say as follows. At the end of a person's life, we hold that, typically speaking, within 40 days before a neshama goes up to the heavens, it has a sense that its time is coming in that respect. So the neshama is made aware on some level. The more aware the neshama is, the more that soul will respond. The rabbis explain as follows. Vashti, what does Vashti represent? She represents the force in people where she knew it was coming to an end and refuses to back down from their evil. Meaning what? We say that Vashti, the Midrash says that Vashti she did a similar, she was, I guess, similar but worse than Ahasuerus, where she took Jewish women, she made them work on Shabbat, and she made them work inappropriately on Shabbat. That's what Vashti did. But the rub over here is that who calls her to the party? Let's look at the next pasuk, make it more clear. Go ahead. Let's see, want to read? B'yom HaShavi'i. Huh? Let's see, want to read? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh,
the next one.
next one.
Hold on, I'm sorry. ביום השביעי, כתוב המלך, ויין אמר לנהמן, וזתה חדבונה, וגתה ועבדתה, זתה וקדחס,
Nice.
שבעת הסריסים המשפטים את פני המלך אחת.
Beautiful. Read one more.
So many people.
Yeah, right. The whole crowd here. Let's see. Read one more.
את ושתי המלכה לפני המלך בכתר מלכות והראות העמים והשרים את יפיה כי טובת נראה לי.
Great. What's going on here? What is going on? First of all, we held and we hold and in this approach to learning that whenever you see the term Melech Achashverosh, it means him, right? And whenever we see the term Melech alone, it means God. Okay, now that makes this much harder. It makes the Megillah much harder to work with, but that's the way we're going, right? Melech on its own, God, Melech Achashverosh, good. So, she was making her party, so to speak. By Yom HaShavi'i, we say, what day is typically Yom HaShavi'i? Shabbat, beautiful. Ketov Lev HaMelech.
I think that's Hashem.
Yep. Ketov Lev HaMelech. When God is feeling good, Bayayin, right? Kiddush, right? How do we sanctify the day? We sanctify the day with wine. So on the seventh day on Shabbat, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is feeling good with wine, he tells all these characters, these 7 characters, who our rabbis say are the committee that brings people into Gehenna. This is the directorate. This is the hell directorate, so to speak. These are the people. He turns to them and he says, and by the way, they were also the Meshatim of Achashverosh, right? They did his bidding. So what does he do? What? Exactly. The counterparts in the heavens. Beautiful. He wants Vashti to come before him, before God, right? What's happening here? I want you to go really out there. And I'm telling you, it's out there. But what do you think is happening here? She's not being called before Achashverosh based on this approach. Who is she being called before? Excellent. She's being called before God, right? Very good. So the rabbis explain as follows. There's this 40-day period, let's say, after 120 years, right? Where person's life is going, is moving to the next stage, right? At that point, some spiritual something will reach out to the person and say, listen, you got your good and you got your other stuff. Take a shot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows teshuvah till the very end of things. So I'm calling you up. I'm telling you, you're in the 40-day zone. You can make teshuvah now and reframe the next iteration of you. the reincarnation, the Gilgul. Take a shot. You got the shot. What do you want to do? So the Gaon of Vilna explains that Vashti, what was she? She was this absolutely committed negative force to a point where when she was offered the option, this remarkable option of making teshuvah till the very end, she says, not interested. I am who I am. He calls the committee together, the committee, the hell judging committee, calls them together, says, gentlemen, what do you want to do here? We're giving Vashti the option. Vashti is committed to her evil, will not back off her evil, right? Right? Coming before God, not Achashverosh, with the Keter of Malchut, you can reclaim God's Malchut, which is an absolute opportunity to be forgiven, at least up to a point. Et Yofia ki tovat mar'ehi. Everybody has positives. She could have claimed the positives. What does she do, according to this approach? Batima'en hamatka Vashti lavo bidvar hu hamelech, God, right? She refuses to come, meaning what?
She doesn't do teshuvah.
Huh?
She deserved it. She doesn't want to make teshuvah.
She never did. Right, good. Now, is she a person? Maybe. But the point is, we're not talking about that person specifically. You're talking about the force called Vashti. We're talking about the inability of a person who goes kicking and screaming till the last minute. And we've learned now that HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes this remarkable, unsolicited offer of another opportunity to make teshuvah that's undeserved and that is there. So, huh? What's that? Yeah.
Yes.
Different approach.
It certainly is.
It's certainly a different approach.
Uh-huh.
1,000,000%. How would you relate it?
We're not entirely clear what their sin was just yet from our reading. But if you take this paradigm where you're telling us that there is a force called Vashti. Vashti is not a Goya or some character who lived thousands of years ago. She's a force within all of humanity, including us Jewish people. So if we came before God as a nation, and Hashem is trying to elevate us to the next level, push aside all of your sins, come before me, in front of me. But like it says in Shir Hashirim, no, I'm tired, fell asleep.
I am who I am. By the
I
way,
don't want to improve myself.
by the way, why is it so far-fetched? How often do you hear from a person, I am who I am. I do what I do. Old dogs don't change. It is what it is, right? Does this sound so crazy? Vashti says, wait, I didn't do so bad. My grandfather was Nebuchadnezzar, right? My grandfather was him. He was pretty good, conquered a good portion of the world. I'm now a princess. I got what I wanted. I did pretty good. So you know what? Good luck to all of you. Huh?
Good run.
I had a good run. Huh? Yeah.
I know we're totally going in a different direction, but aren't there Mepharshim that say that she was embarrassed?
100%.
So what do we do with that?
Excellent. We're going to do something with that right now. Perfect. Okay. Stay with me up here. I know you're not going to ditch down there, but I need you to start to seriously question down here, because the down here doesn't make this the story for all time. It can't be. It can't be. Now, so I want you to go up here a little bit with the imperfectness of it, because remember, we're doing it first time now, right? You can't do this just one time, but we're going to do it with an overview one time and then maybe fill it in future years or something. But yeah.
What's nice about this reading is that it forces us to read it on both levels, because verse 15 says, Ma la'asot b'malka Vashti, what should we do for her? That she didn't asa et ma'amad hamelech Achashverosh.
Good.
Maybe once you start out in this path where you don't want to improve yourself, where you want to, I'll use the words, give into your more evil inclinations or whatever you want to call it, when you do that within yourself and your spirituality, that's also going to
Becomes you.
overflow into your relationships with. Bnei Adam.
Fantastic, beautiful,
So
great.
now it's forcing us to read it into it. This Vashti energy is a spiritual one, but it's also one that
Good.
interacts
Very
with the
good.
physical world.
Very nice. Very nice way to do it. Beautiful way to do it. And in fact, to your point, the Gra, whose interpretation we're leaning on largely, writes both. He writes Pshat and he writes Remez. He writes this and he writes the Remez. And by the way, they're side by side in the book. Side by side. My highlights are on the Remez side, but on the hinting side, but they're side by side in the book. And he does that for a reason, and exactly to this point. Go out and come back. Go out and come back. Nobody's saying it didn't happen. It happened. But it happened in such a way, and more important than that, it's being described in such a way. The question is, how is this event described? How is it memorialized? Not how it happened, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu explains things the way he wants. Those with the Ruach HaKodesh, in this case, capability, they memorialize things the way they want. And that was the way, and that was blessed by God, right? The rabbis accepted it, blessed by Kadosh Baruch Hu. So it's very nice to be able to jump back and forth. I want you to just be very comfortable with the jump also, okay? Great.
Mehuman Haman, no.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about we'll see, we'll talk about him in a minute. Okay, so what are we learning here? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give the opportunity to people to take this final shot at Teshuvah. And by the way, like we said, it's not far-fetched because we hear it all day long. People are set in their ways. People do what they do. Don't sweat the small stuff. All this kind of stuff, which is completely antithetical to Judaism. And if people are doing that when they're alive and they have maximal capacity to change, they certainly may do it later on. Okay. Great. All righty. Let's jump ahead a drop. Okay. Good. Vayomem Memuchan. So now we know who Achashverosh is. We know who Vashti is. Go to verse 16. Jane, you want to read verse 16? Yeah, Ted Zion.
היה ביום המבחן לפני המלך השרים, לא על המלך לבדו, אף ושתי המלכה, כי על כל השרים ועל כל העמים, אשר לכל מדינות המלך אחשוורוש.
Right, great. So explain it in English. Either way, your English is good.
Okay, the Mufan declared before the king and the officials, it is not only the king whom Vashti and the queen has wronged, but also all the officials and all the people in the provinces in the kingdom.
Great. So how would you work that based on our approach? How would you explain that?
Section.
How would you explain it?
Like they made a case against her.
They do what?
All these, the people that were the forces, made a case against her,
Right, excellent. What's the case?
that she,
He's undermining Achashverosh. Beautiful. How is she undermining him? Huh?
Not obeying.
Not obeying, but go with our jump back up. Huh? What? She is undermining Hashem, but she's also undermining Achashverosh. How?
By not appearing with the Haman. I mean, that's a shot.
Good. So how is she doing it based on our approach? What is she doing? Not making teshuvah. So how does that undermine Achashverosh? She's undermining him. Remember his approach. What's his approach? His approach was subtle, clever, not confrontational, indirect, move the people, Right.
Too out there.
Right, she
Huh?
She was
confronted
too
him.
out there.
Fantastic. She blows the cover. Her independent and her negating God by her saying, I don't care what God says. Again, we're reading up, down, up, down, up, down. I don't care what God says. I don't care that he gave me the opportunity to make teshuvah. I don't care that he gave me the opportunity to back off my negative behavior. I don't care about that. Now, if this lady gets a microphone, the jig is up. Because now the people will see what our real program is. Our real program is to get rid of God. But if she comes out like this, we're finished, right? It's so subliminal. It's so universal. It's what goes on all the time, right? What do we say? The news. How much of what we read in the news is accurate? What's the thing? How much?
Zero.
10%. 10%. It means 90% of what you're putting on a major news station, it could be world-class news station, 90% is either hidden or wrong. Yes. Okay, that's how you inculcate people. That's how you build a culture that will take them off their program. You never go right at it. So what does Vashti do? She says, going right at these guys. I'm going right at it. And Hashkashverosh says, wait a second. If she defies me, if she doesn't follow my plan, we're done. The people will revolt. Nobody's going to stand for this. Good. Huh? You got the point?
She
Yeah.
said it's a play.
It's a play. It's a play. Yeah, Jen. Shaking your head.
Yeah, no, I'm not with the whole thing because, I mean, I know how the story ends and he doesn't seem like Ahasuerus gets punished for any of this.
Let's see. Very good. Let's see.
And she gets punished right away for just being less sly or less.
Or direct.
No, she's more direct. Perfect. She's more direct.
Okay,
But the direct blows the whole plan. Well, let's take a case in point. Hamas, right? How brilliant is Hamas? They're brilliant. Talk about turning an absolute disaster into a world-class triumph. They have done that with spades. There's nobody better than them, right? Nobody better than them. They're spectacular. They have Israel on the defensive. They have America on the defensive. They have people who want justice on the defensive. That's brilliant. That's Ahasuerus. That's what wins in the world. That's what wins. Good guys don't win. It's the people who can control the minds of the people. That's who wins.
But on a simple level, wouldn't Ahasuerus be happy when he said actually divine?
Definitely not. Why not? Say why not, Mary. Good. Beauty. Beauty, say why not.
The scales a little, she broke the scale.
She broke the seal. Say it again.
He wanted to just tip the scales just a little to keep it kosher looking, but she broke the whole system.
Exactly.
She
That's
went
the
too
whole
far,
thing.
too far. The game is to create the facade.
You don't understand what? What did you say?
She doesn't understand any of it. neither
Okay.
do we.
Your Hebrew is pretty good, right? Mazal, your Hebrew is pretty good? Okay, open up the Gra. Okay, on this Megillah, you don't have it there. Okay, find it, Faria, the stat. Okay, and take your shot at it and let's work on it. You need very, what?
And it says that she refused, but what exactly she refused is unclear. But according to what she was told by the chamberlain, what did they tell her exactly? It's unclear. It's something that was.
Exactly, I'm telling you the way he understands it.
So, against it, it sounds like something that she knows.
Very good. So I'm explaining to you the way he goes with it, and you know, be comfortable if you can. His approach is that she is too extreme. She is too anti-God. And if she comes out, he didn't need the 187 days of parties. He didn't need to make the Jewish people feel welcome. He didn't need any of this stuff. And by the way, now he's at war with his demographic. He's at war. You can't win that war, right? How does the woke culture work? It's insidious. It's step by step. Look at where that world went in the last 20 years. It's mind-boggling what they did to America, what they did to us, what they did to beautiful, tamim, timid, and innocent people who are not Jewish, what they did to them. It's brilliant. And brilliant takeovers don't happen like this. They happen like this and like that and like that and slowly and cleverly and one step forward and half a step back. You know, and again, you don't need a better example than what we're going through right now. You don't need a better example. Who's on the defensive in this war? Everybody in this room. Who's afraid? Everybody in this room. Who has to answer to these lunatics? Us. What are you talking about? But that's the brilliance of carefully calculated evil. Now, Vashti was a patriot. She was her grandfather's granddaughter. She wasn't going for a little bit of a win. My grandfather burnt the temple, murdered all kinds of people. I'm going for gusto. And if God calls me out and I can save myself, or I can go down with the ship of evil, I'm going down with the ship. That's his approach. Yeah.
So I get that they had a different approach, that she was more direct, and maybe because she had a lineage, she felt like, who are you to tell me,
Right. Could
you
be.
know, this is the way my grandfather did it, this is the way we handle it.
Yep.
But where is all that in the Pasuk? All that is from God?
No, definitely not. Very good. That is the question of the day. We have to record that. We have to do quotable quotes. That was great. No, we don't get all that from God. No, definitely not. We're getting that from that okay. We're getting that from Biyom HaShavi'i Ketov Dev HaMelech on the seventh day when Hakadosh Baruch Hu is in the saddle, so to speak. He goes to his cabinet, right? As Flora mentioned, I think, here and in the heavens, to come before him. Beketer Machut, Laharot Hamim Vasarim. Come to me with majesty. Let's do something. Let's do something good together. Let's at least demonstrate that you acknowledge me. Achashverosh acknowledged him. By the way, when we read the Midrashim that Achashverosh brought the kelim from the temple, right, the utensils from the temple and the clothing from the high priest, what does that tell you? I value those things. That was brilliant. I value them, dear Jews. Look, I saved them for you. I kept them in good safekeeping. I'm not trampling on it. I'm not Nebuchadnezzar. I'm a better guy. Love me. And if you love me, I will change you and I'll control you. That's the
I think if people know they're being attacked, they're gonna fight back. So he went around it, like, I'm not attacking, I'm with you, I love you. I'm with you, you know.
Exactly.
so that they wouldn't
and
fight back.
Vashti's approach was
Right,
head
right.
on. Now, what you're going to see, which is very interesting, let's go jump ahead a minute, go to verse 16, I'm sorry. Vayomer memuchan, לפני המלך והשרים, לא המלך לבדו עבתה ושתי המלכה. Who's talking here? Who? Huh? Verse 16, who?
Sanegor, Kategor, what do you call that guy?
Right, good. So who's talking? Haman is talking, right? Beauty. What is Haman saying?
But he's talking to God.
Right? He's talking in front of God, yes. Amelech v'asarim, those 7 minions of God, right? Those 7 committee people that oversee, you know, the negative stuff. Lo amelech avdo avtam vashti, ki al kol hasarim v'al kol ha'amim asher b'chol ha'medinot amelech Achashverosh. Achashverosh controls the world. It's all under his practical control. So what did Vashti do, folks? And here's where you see the brilliance of Haman, right? Haman is totally with the program. He says, Achashverosh is a great one. We can take over these people. Now you're going to tell me that he ends up he peeled poor, right? He ends up doing this lottery to want to kill the Jewish people, God forbid, right? That's step 2. By the way, what did Hitler do? What did Hitler do? What was his program? Who remembers? Huh? Before that, when did that evolve? In 41, 42? Right? When did the campaign start? In the 30s, right?
But he tried to get rid of them first.
What,
He
how?
tried to deport them. He tried to get them out.
Even before that, excellent. Even before that, what did Hitler
He
do?
undermined them. He made them have-
He tried, even before that, he said, we have to separate the Jews from the Talmud. He went after the Talmudic Jew. He didn't go after the assimilated Jew. He went after the Talmudic Jew. And he said, if I can separate the Jew from the Talmud, game over. I don't have to spend all the money and effort trying to kill them. Because if I assimilate them, I don't have a problem. Yeah.
It sounds like the Nuremberg laws are trying to avoid that.
Oh.
Because if your family-
What year were the Nuremberg laws?
I don't remember.
Okay, so take a look at it, take a look at the timeline, and you'll see something interesting, footnoted, so to speak. You'll see that his first approach wasn't, it's very expensive to kill millions of people, right? Takes a massive amount of manpower and munitions and supplies and money, right? That's what it takes, right?
But he wanted purebred people. He didn't want the Jews to convert.
Okay, so that comes later on. When he sees he can't do it. When he sees the people are interacting, they're assimilating, they're connecting, he can't do it. And you're gonna see a similar thing in Haman.
No, but I'm not done with this, I'm sorry.
Okay, no
Even the
problem. We'll
ones
get
that-
on.
Even the ones that converted, even the ones that were.
In the end, he
like,
takes everybody out.
Like, it didn't matter how far back.
That's
they
right.
Still got exterminated.
Correct.
So he was very.
That's right.
Didn't
But it
want-
didn't start that way. Let's see, look it up, look it up. Huh?
He changed his mind.
Change his approach.
Change his approach.
Mine was always to hate the Jews.
Yes.
Get rid of the
I
Jew.
thought he wanted to get rid of them and exterminate them. I never heard of that.
But listen, if someone could get the Jew to just give up on their Judaism, why kill him?
No, I agree with you.
Exactly.
I didn't think he was that person because he
Yeah.
was so obsessed with the bloodline and the purity.
That
and
was
the
all, that was
race and
all
the-
to drum up the masses, the Aryan race and all that. That was to drum up the masses. But really what he wanted was to get rid of that God-fearing entity on the planet, just like Ahasuerus. By the way, this is copy-paste to the Holocaust. This is copy-paste Hamas. This is copy-paste the Inquisition. This is copy-paste the pogroms. It's all the same story. Yeah. I'm gonna raise the heat again, sorry. I'm either freezing or boiling. Yeah.
About China and the Chinese Jews, that there was a robust Chinese, Jewish community years ago.
It's the perfect example. Jane's example is
There
perfect.
was
Go ahead.
never any anti-Semitism. They never experienced it. It was a Western thing and they were very, embracing the community there, and because of that, they assimilated and hold on.
And by the way, that was brilliant. And by the way, America is doing the same thing. It's brilliant. 80% of American Jews, history. It's over. It's brilliant. But imagine, huh?
91 according to the latest.
91? Oh my
According
God.
to the latest UJA survey.
Beyond terrific. By the way, how did they do it? By loving us, by accepting us. It's a Achashverosh 2.0. And if you want to read the Megilat and say this Megilat is an eternal document, it's not a history book, then you got to read it this way. You got to read it this way, okay? And harder to read this way, but it's impossible to read it the other way. It's impossible. It doesn't make, okay, read it the other way, make it a story for then, and I'll see you. Not anything more. Okay, we'll go another handful of minutes.
Leslie in.
Okay,
Yeah, let her.
all right, okay, great, okay, we got it, okay, okay, thank you. Okay, so now what is, we'll go another 6-7 minutes. What does Memuchan do? Okay, beautiful. So we say that Haman is Haman was born, so to speak, this Haman element, this Haman possibility, was born right after Adam and Chava ate from the,
Amin Ha'etz.
Amina, it's beautiful. You want to explain that? Excellent.
The first time the letter is Haman here to God is with, after they eat from the tree, God says, Amin Ha'etz, did you eat from the tree? So they say that that's where.
Fantastic. Fantastic. we say, so we have the birthing point, so to speak, of Ahashverosh, is when the Nahash was born, the snake, Ahashverosh comes on the scene a little bit later. And in the same, whatever it was, world of the Garden of Eden, whatever it was before and after, the notion, the concept of Haman is established as well. And what does he tell? What does he do? He stands before the king, which is God, and the Sadim, which is these minions, right? In the negative world, and some say the positive world as well. And he says that Vashti didn't go against God only, but went against every spiritual focused person throughout the world as it's controlled by Ahashverosh. So why is Haman opposed to this? For the same reason. If somebody like this comes on the scene and takes, and if you look at the next pasuk,
Too
it says,
radical, maybe that's a good
it's
word.
too radical. Good. Too radical. Ki yatsa devar hamalka al kol anashim, verse 17, because the approach of the queen went out on all the nashim, the vazot ba'alehem be'enehem, to disgrace their Baal, their masters, right in front of them. What does that mean? Who was disgracing and who was being disgraced? Mary, what do you think? You want to switch to another topic, right? It is hard. The Bazot, what do you think? Huh?
I'm stuck on the Bizat Haveporah, so I have to bring my head right back in here.
So-
So I'm totally in another
Okay.
realm. I need to get back in. But
So
maybe
it
that
says
they in their
Akol
own eyes-
Nashim, and the rabbi describes the Nashim as the Gufei Ha'adam, the Bazot Ba'alehem, that the physical side of the person will disgust and disregard the Baal, which is the soulful side of the person. Benehem ba'omram hamelech Achashverosh amar la'avi et Vashti hamalka lefanav v'lo ba'a. Achashverosh says, I didn't want this. She went too far. And if we don't do something drastic to get rid of her, then her mandate, her mantra, her campaign will manifest. And what is that campaign? That campaign is that the body is more important than the soul. The nashim, the Gra explains, is the physical side, the vazot ba'alehem, to disgrace and disregard the spiritual side. And if Vashti is not harshly punished, then this will come out as the overt culture. And then what happens? We will fail because it's too frontal, it's too confrontational. The people will not buy it and will be stopped. In order to get back on our program of really wiping out the Jewish people and any people of faith and morality, you have to deal harshly with Vashti, get rid of her, and make it clear that you're the spiritual guy, that you're the good guy, that you're the moral guy, that you're the ethical guy. And if you do that, we win.
Interesting. Besides the whole cancel culture that we're living right now, which canceled her, but Baal back in the day was the god was the idol worship. So once you're going to do bizarre, once you're going to minimize, or what's the word, disrespect or disregard what you want to call is the husband, you're really also disregarding the spiritual worship,
Very nice. Beautiful.
which is Baal.
Beautiful.
You started
Very
with
nice.
that.
Very nice. Beautiful.
I don't know about you, but I'm taking a new idea and trying to stick it in here. Like,
Exactly. That's
I
what
don't
you
know
need
if
to
the
do.
chicken or the egg came first. Like, did this give us the idea, or we had the idea now?
I don't know which one came first,
I'm saying,
but it's in, but I'll tell you,
working on it.
good. It's very, I'm not going to say,
It takes a
from my
snap to-
perspective, it's impossible
Okay.
to learn it otherwise. It's
Oh.
just simply, in
You
my
drank it
perspective,
already.
I
Still-
can't.
still-
I'll tell you why. I tell you why I can't. I can't, because I can't look at it as as the description of a local event
of meaning.
with the perspective where Maimonides, as we talked about in the first session, Maimonides says, all the books of the prophets shelved, except for this, the other books that people wrote, right? The other Ketubim, and the 5 books of Moses. Al Sheikh HaKadosh said, that's right. That's right. And you know why we don't need the books of the prophets anymore? Because that happened already. It's old news. And any remazim, any hints that the prophets bring, we will have reached a point of intellectual growth where we will see that in the 5 books of Moses directly. And nobody backs off on the fact that this will be the remaining document.
I think if I may, I think the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
That's
If
right.
you just take one little share, one little piece, or
Yeah.
fit one little word, I don't know if I love it. If you take the whole concept
Yeah, that's right.
and you're open to the whole concept and don't keep putting up the barriers, just stay open till we hear the end of it, which we're only on page 2, but still, if we stay open to the whole story,
I completely
I think
agree.
it'll paint the whole picture for us.
Yeah.
Especially since it's a foreign idea for, at least for me, and I learned this
You
a
want-
billion times. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
never learned it this way, so now
Good.
you have to be open to this
Right.
approach that we're
Right.
gonna.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vashti represents evil. Everybody?
Vashti represents an evil that went so far that even in the last minute, when she knew that her life was over and she saw it, and she saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and she knew her days were essentially over, she refused to change. And by the way, that's a massive message. It is a massive message.
That goes for everybody, Jews and non-Jews.
Jews and non-Jews. Perfect. Very good. Fantastic. Very good.
It's a
Excellent.
tendency, I don't know if it goes for everybody, maybe it's a tendency that they're making us aware of, that our tendency is to hold on to our ways that we already convinced ourselves are the right ways. And if we hold on to them and we don't stand in front of the king and we don't come to him and we don't do whatever we have to do, then there's no use for us.
Yeah.
The king has no use for us, which is
Yeah.
God.
And it appears that, yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I have a question.
Right.
So
no interruption.
Vashti represents an entity of not wanting to change. The king represents Hashem. 2 other people in the story, like how is Mordechai? Is he also represented in another way?
Oh,
Or
yeah. Oh, yeah. What? What? What was Haman?
What does he represent?
We are very good. Excellent.
right, what does he represent? That's what I meant to
we
say.
say is Malach HaMavet. He is the angel of death. Are you with me on that?
Yeah,
What?
it's easy one.
Okay, Haman is the angel of death, whereas Achashverosh is the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara. Haman is the guy with the sword. Now, just the thing. Who is Mordechai? We didn't get the good guys yet. The good guys haven't been introduced yet. We have, we're gonna get Mordechai, Mordechai, you know, his lineage is truncated, and only 3 of his grandparents are mentioned, not the several that he really comes from. Is his name a real name? By the way, all these names are applied. They're not real. Mordechai, we're gonna talk about the acronym that makes up his name. Is that his name? I don't know. The same way Haman is Min Ha'etz, right? Achashverosh is Achiv Shel Rosh, right? All these kind of things. By the way, Esther and Hadassah. We have to talk about those names. Was Hadassah her real name? I don't know. Esther was certainly not her real name, right? So we have a ways to go yet. We will see the good people beginning next week. They come on the scene and they will start to impact the story. But at this point, let's leave it with the following. Hashverosh, lockstep with Haman. Haman actually saves Ahashverosh brilliantly because he says, if the extremist, if the fanatic, if the radical Vashti has her way, we blow this whole thing. Therefore, he becomes his revered advisor because he fully gets it, right? And he stays it. Question becomes, right? Why does he turn? And why does he ultimately say, Lo Adenu? There's got to be a final solution. Why does he ultimately say that? We have to look at why he
I
does
gotta
that.
get going. Bye,
Bye,
guys. Thank you.
everybody.
I may not be here next week, but you know what's nice? Esther in your